Leviticus 15. Rules about liquid body wastes. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. He said, "Speak to the people of Israel. Tell them, suppose liquid waste is flowing out of a man's body. That liquid is not clean. It does not matter whether it continues to flow out of his body or is blocked. It will make him unclean. Here is how his liquid body waste will make him unclean. Any bed the man who has the flow of liquid body waste lies on will not be clean. Anything he sits on will not be clean. If any of you touches the man's bed, you must wash your clothes. You must take a bath. You will be unclean until evening. Suppose you sit on anything the man sat on, then you must wash your clothes. You must take a bath. You will be unclean until evening. Suppose you touch the man who has the flow of liquid body waste, then you must wash your clothes. You must take a bath. You will be unclean until evening. Suppose you are clean, and suppose the man who has the flow of liquid waste spits on you, then you must wash your clothes. You must take a bath. You will be unclean until evening. Everything the man sits on when he is writing will be unclean. Suppose you touch any of the things that were under him, then you will be unclean until evening. Even if you pick up those things, you must wash your clothes. You must take a bath. You will be unclean until evening. Suppose the man who has a liquid flow touches you, and suppose he does it without rinsing his hands with water, then you must wash your clothes. You must take a bath. You will be unclean until evening. Suppose the man touches a clay pot, then that pot must be broken. Any wooden article he touches must be rinsed with water. Suppose the man has been healed from his liquid flow, then he must wait 7 days. He must wash his clothes. He must take a bath in fresh water. After that he will be clean. On the 8th day he must get 2 doves or 2 young pigeons. He must come to the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. There he must give the birds to the priest. The priest must sacrifice them. One is for the sin offering, the other is for a burnt offering. In that way the priest will pay for the man's sin in the sight of the Lord. He will do it because the man had a liquid flow. Suppose semen flows from a man's body, then he must wash his whole body with water. He will be unclean until evening. Suppose clothes or leather have semen on them, then they must be washed with water. They will be unclean until evening. Suppose a man makes love to a woman, and suppose semen flows from his body and touches both of them, then they must take a bath. They will be unclean until evening. Suppose a woman is having her regular period, then for 7 days she will not be pure. Anyone who touches her will be unclean until evening. Anything she lies on during her period will be unclean. Anything she sits on will be unclean. If anyone touches her bed, he must wash his clothes. He must take a bath. He will be unclean until evening. If anyone touches anything she sits on, he must wash his clothes. He must take a bath. He will be unclean until evening. It does not matter whether it was her bed or anything she was sitting on. If anyone touches it, he will be unclean until evening. Suppose a man makes love to that woman, and suppose blood from her monthly period touches him. Then he will be unclean for 7 days. Any bed he lies on will be unclean. Suppose blood flows from a woman's body for many days, and it happens at a time other than her monthly period, or blood keeps flowing after her period is over. Then she will be unclean as long as the blood continues to flow. She will be unclean just as she is during the days of her period. Any bed she lies on while her blood continues to flow will be unclean. It is the same as it is when she is having her period. Anything she sits on will be unclean. It is the same as it is when she is having her period. If anyone touches those things, he will not be clean. He must wash his clothes. He must take a bath. He will be unclean until evening. Suppose the woman has been healed from her flow of blood. Then she must wait 7 days. After that she will be clean. On the 8th day she must get 2 doves or 2 young pigeons. She must bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting. The priest must sacrifice them. One is for a sin offering, the other is for a burnt offering. In that way he will pay for her sin in the sight of the Lord. He will do it because her flow of blood made her unclean. You must keep the people of Israel away from things that make them unclean. Then they will not die for being unclean, and they will not die for making the place where the Lord lives unclean. It is in the middle of the camp. Those are the rules for a man who has liquid waste flowing out of his body. They apply to a man who is made unclean by semen that flows from his body. They apply to a woman who is having her monthly period. They apply to a man or woman who has a liquid flow, and they apply to a man who makes love to a woman who is not clean.